and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, for another episode of the TalkFCB podcast coming your way. And quite frankly, I decided to do it in this format of video today because we need to talk. And honestly, it's been a hard week. Let me just say that right here, because I actually had a message on Instagram there from Benjamin who just said, can I ask you a question? Does football affect your mental health? It's a huge challenge for me. I'm a big Barca fan, but I hate it when these things happen, when we lose, when we have difficult moments. How could I not let it affect my mental health? And that is a really good question. And that is why, honestly, sometimes here, we just need to talk. Because people are maybe outside of football who don't watch it, or maybe they're not interested in it. They'll say to you, how can that possibly affect your mental health? How can that get you down? You know, it's only a game. That's what we hear, isn't it? It's only a game. But it's hard. It's genuinely very, very hard. And obviously here, I make videos on the team every single day. But I know all of you guys, you're here with me. You know, you're tuning in to the videos. You're getting involved in the comments. You're all here with me every day, pretty much. And that's all we think about. You know, we get through our day-to-day life by thinking, okay, what are Barca going to do in a few days? What's the game going to be like this weekend? Thinking about the result that we just had. Now, if that's a good result, we're all bouncing into next week. But if it's not, and if you get a series of difficult moments, setbacks there that you've got to overcome, it can be quite tasking. And that is why sometimes here, I do just want to talk on the channel, speak from the heart, talk about some topics that we want to sort of get into together. And that is really, really important to do. And today we're going to be talking about Barca's problems, you know, what we're seeing right now on the field, trying to make sense of it, because it's not actually that easy to just identify exactly what is going wrong right now. We're going to be talking about lots of players too. Dani Rodriguez, Dani Olmo, two very exciting Danis, Yamal, and also Jamal Musiala. That is all on the way. And also, guys, if you would like to help support the channel, really, really big help it would be there. You can download the SofaScore app just using the link in the description down below. That's a massive, massive help there. The link is down below, and it's a great way to stay up to date with all the latest scores, player ratings, and stats. It's the only football app that you will need, and it is available for free in the description, guys. So thank you there for that great support. Because indeed, guys, speaking here about Barca's problems right now, what we are facing out there on the field, and really understanding what is going wrong, I have a great question coming in here from Austin. He said, I really want to hear if you agree with me. I have never been more confused by a Barca team in my life. He said, usually the issues with the team are obvious, but right now, I have no clue what is going on. And honestly, I actually think that is a fantastic analysis of what we're seeing, because from game to game, it's kind of a different issue with Barca, because yeah, there's the underlying feeling, in my opinion here, that we're seeing tiredness, fatigue, a lack of intensity that really does hurt the style of play, and that is kind of the root issue here, the squad depth problems that we're going to talk about, especially here in today's video. But in general, though, it is a bit more tricky to work out game by game what's gone wrong there, what's happening there, and especially the collapse from Barca, the fall off, the drastic change in form from a few weeks ago. You know, it wasn't even that long ago here. We were absolutely destroying teams. We were coming up against opponents week by week, and we weren't even thinking, are we going to win? We were thinking, is it going to be 4, 5, 6, or 7 goals for Barca? And genuinely, it wasn't that long ago. I remember the prediction polls that we were putting out. We were deciding, how much are we going to win by? And now we're thinking, can we even win a game in the league? So things have changed really, really quickly. And I think that's interesting as well here, because Chris has said, why couldn't Barca struggle like this at the beginning of the season? Why did they get our hopes up really high, and now it almost hurts more? And that is actually an interesting point of view here, because Barca, I think, started under Hansi Flick way better, way better than we could have ever imagined there. Really hit the ground running, especially as well, it was before we got a lot of our injured players back. You know, at the very start of the season, following that pre-season period where we were building, where we were looking strong, where Flick maybe had the chance there to drill the players, to get them ready physically, to really put his style of play and his imprint on things, and then we started the season so well. And from there, I guess we kind of expected it not to always be like that. You know, you can't continue on that kind of trajectory for the entire season, especially with the amount of games that we have. But I don't think many of us saw a real drop-off coming, a real fallout here over the past games, particularly, of course, looking at our La Liga form. So that was a big change and one that we didn't expect. And I agree, it does hurt more, given that we started so well, with Barca fans, we want to get our hopes up. A lot of fans sort of look at Barca fans and they say, oh, look, you're bigging the team up, you're making them out to be something they're not, you're getting your hopes up too high. I mean, sorry that we want our team to do well. Sorry that we'd like to have a bit of excitement. That's seen as wrong now. Oh, we shouldn't have got excited before. We shouldn't have celebrated the previous wins. We want to do that. We're football fans. We're fans of Barca. We've waited long times here for big victories on the big stage. We want to celebrate. That is why we are here. So I never want to hear people say, oh, you shouldn't have celebrated that. You've got to celebrate these moments. You've got to enjoy them when they come around, because you don't know when they won't be there anymore. And I've got another excellent question coming in here, guys. Really fantastic questions over on my community section. Thank you very much for getting involved, to you all. Do you not think that it's the playing style with the high line and the intensity required that is why Barca has failed to maintain its form? It reminds me of Klopp's Liverpool. They would have a brilliant season, then lose steam in the next one. We need more depth. And I think that's a really good comparison there. Klopp's Liverpool, of course. Remember when he came into Liverpool, he needed to get his squad the way that he wanted it. He needed several players to come in to really execute that kind of game plan, the really high pressing, the really intense approach. And of course, that does take a lot. And that is why, actually, when you listen to Jurgen Klopp when he was at Liverpool, remember, one of his biggest problems was the amount of games that his team, that his squad there were having to play. The recovery time, of course, very limited as well. He always used to talk about early kickoffs, really didn't like those, and Klopp certainly was not happy, and he knew that would have an effect on his style of play. And I think we see similarities here with Hansi Flick and the demands that we need, that style demands. Because obviously, when Flick arrived, guys, don't forget here, his job, Laporta, what he looked to with Flick, was for him to get the absolute best out of what he had. Xavi, of course, we know, was sacked after saying, look, we don't really have the squad. We don't really have the players. We'll need more if we're going to be able to compete. Laporta didn't like that. He brought Flick in. He wanted him to get the best out of what we had now without too much being added to it. And I think that's the interesting thing right now, because I would say that Flick has gotten the best out of the players that he has. I do believe his style of play is suiting them more. We've seen players like Rafinha absolutely explode here under his leadership. But unfortunately, what we're seeing too is that Hansi Flick's style may not suit more the modern football calendar. The amount of games, it doesn't really suit that, especially with a small squad. So I think here, with Hansi Flick, it's not saying the squad that he has, that he needs new players to play the way that he wants to, that he needs a lot of signings to play his style of play. But I think it's more about here, he needs players in order to sustain it. We've seen that he can play it. We've seen these players can play the style of play very well. At their peak, the best games that we've played have been absolutely phenomenal in terms of the level, but sustaining it will require more, and it will ultimately require more depth. But I guess, guys, what I would say here is, it's better that at least we've seen what Flick can do, what Flick is capable of, because sometimes when you get a new coach, especially at a big club, they say, okay, I need signing after signing after signing, and then you'll see what I can do, and then you'll be able to see the style that I want to play. Once I get all my signings, then I can do it. At least with Flick, he's come in, and we've already seen what he can do. We've already seen the potential. We've already seen here the idea, the philosophy behind his game. And it can work, but he does need more. And it will be on the board. It will be a job. It will be a really big task for them to be able to provide Flick with what he needs to sustain that level. However, guys, I have had plenty of questions too about individuals in the team right now. And one of those is Pablo Tor. Now, can we talk about Pablo Tor? Because this young man has been an unused sub, unused, didn't even come on for a single minute in his last 4 games. And given, of course, in those games how Barca have struggled in them, have found it difficult to get going, to maybe play the kind of football that we want to. And again, when you're talking about freshness and you're talking about the squad, why aren't we seeing more of this young man? And it's a really interesting one because, of course, under Xavi as well, he was loaned out. He really wasn't in favour. He couldn't really force himself into his plans. Now under Flick, he's played a bit more. The bar was very low. He hardly played at all under Xavi. So obviously Flick has given him a bit more time. But we're still not really seeing much at all of Pablo Tor, which is weird because every single time that we see him on the field, he does kind of make things happen. You know, he is involved in something. It's not as though he's one of those players that comes on and you don't even notice him. You know, you don't know that he's there. He plays safe options. You don't really get any progression from him. It's not like that at all. He's a player who can be very decisive in the final third. He can be very effective too from set-piece situations. And you can use that. And I think he's a player there in the squad that can definitely contribute more. He can help us more if we just let him, if we give him a few more opportunities. And certainly they're looking to next year, I think he has to get more game time. We've got to put a bit more trust here, a bit more faith in Pablo Tor, because he is a talented boy. He has real talent in his game. And I think we all, every single one of us Barca fans, we'd love to see it. Which, speaking then, guys, about that attacking midfield area of the field, well, that brings us on to talk about Dani Olmo and his entire situation right now. Because obviously, you got that registration, we're going to talk about that, but also his form recently, you'd have to say he hasn't really been at his best. He's another one of those players, and there are many, you know, it's not just him, far from it, who are not quite the same as they were several weeks ago. They've not quite been able to show that peak level, and of course, it's possible that it's fatigue, just like the rest of the team, really, or potentially he's had to come through injury problems that have really affected his game over the past few weeks. But I also wonder, and I think it's only natural to wonder, is his future weighing on him at all? Because honestly, it's incredible that I'm even saying that. He signed a few months ago. We shouldn't even be talking about his future here. And yet in January, of course, we got registration issues. And is that maybe in the back of his mind? You couldn't really blame him if it was. It's not ideal. You want to be out there as a footballer playing with absolute certainty. You don't want doubts. You don't want doubts on the field. You don't want doubts off the field. But Olmo right now, he's got a lot surrounding him. And Barca effectively has right now just 12 days until Dani Olmo is no longer registered. Now that is not exactly the 12 days of Christmas. That is more like the 12 days of please hurry up and get our players registered. Because on January the 1st, Barca start from square one. He will not be registered to play anymore, and they will need to re-register him. Now, in the morning papers this morning in Barcelona, they got big pictures of Joan Laporta standing firm. They say that either it will be through the courts that this will be decided here, the Olmo registration, or there will be capital investment in some way from a Middle Eastern country. We've seen Joan Laporta on several trips out there in the past to try and gain some investment, but Laporta did say yesterday, and these were interesting words, he said, "We have requested a precautionary measure from the courts. We appeal to the fact that the salary margin left behind by Ter Stegen is enough to register both players, Dani Olmo and Pau Victor, don't forget." And that is interesting in itself, because already there, are we saying Ter Stegen won't play then for the entirety of the rest of the season? Because don't forget, his recovery is actually going pretty well. He is actually recovering here on the basis that he could return before the season is over. But if we're using Ter Stegen's salary margin now, and his, of course, wages removed there from the salary cap, then no, he will not be playing. He will not be registered. It's another player here that we're effectively unregistering so we can register others. And I think right now, it's just important that we get these things solved. These are issues here that I'm sure Hansi Flick is thinking, it would be much better if we didn't have this. But hey, this is Barca. This is what he's walked into. We know that Xavi had to deal with a lot of these problems as well. And like I say, Olmo may have that on his mind. It'll be better for everybody. It'll be much better once it's resolved, which I still believe that it will be. But we are against the clock, and the clock is ticking. Which, okay, brings me on then to the situation right now surrounding Lamine Yamal. We spoke very recently on the channel about his injury, and of course some of the concerns there, the deeper-rooted issues maybe that could be in that injury situation. And we're hearing now, and this is the interesting thing, we're hearing now Barca are determined that Yamal is back for the Super Cup, you know, and not just the final, they want him there for the semi-final against Athletic Club on January the 8th, which is a really quick turnaround there. Based on the injury that they told us that he had, that would be cutting it very fine. We're already hearing rumours here about a faster recovery time, about going through a process there that speeds up that recovery. And I just don't like these words, you know. I don't know if it's just me, guys, but I just don't like the thought here that already we're thinking, get him back, rush the recovery. We need you back as soon as possible. It is such short-sighted thinking. You know, we have to be thinking here, not about the next game, not about getting Yamal back as soon as we possibly can. Think about the long game. Think about the fact that you want this man shining in your team for over a decade. You know, that's the long-term thinking here. You can't be thinking about rushing him back to play a Super Cup semi-final. That is frankly ridiculous if that is the case right now. We have to be careful with Yamal. We've got to be thinking about these situations right now. And honestly, even when he's there, even when he is available, we have to start to think about the fact that he can't play every minute. He can't play every game. We need to try a few new things. And I think now, when he is injured, given that we got maybe a few games without him, you've got to try a few new things, especially given that in the January transfer window, we don't expect to be able to do anything. Don't expect players to be arriving in that window here. We still don't have the attacking options that we need. So can I just throw out the name of Dani Rodriguez? Let's talk about Dani Rodriguez. I got a super thanks here coming in from Marco. Big thank you, my friend, for that. Really appreciate it. And he says, what do you think about Dani Rodriguez from Barca Athletic? Now, this is a 19-year-old winger, if you haven't heard of him before. He is primarily a left winger. He's played a lot of his football there on the left-hand side. Now, he is a proper winger. You know, I'm not just talking about somebody who can play out wide, who can drift out wide. This guy is an out-and-out winger. He's played as well on the right at times. You know, either way, he can play. He's got really quick feet. He's good in tight spaces there. He's a very astute dribbler, and he's got a fantastic left foot there. I've seen some absolutely brilliant finishes from Dani Rodriguez, and the reason why we haven't heard too much about him, you know, we haven't spoken about him too much here on the channel, is that he's only recently come back from quite a lengthy injury layoff. And the thing about it is, he's come back to Barca Athletic and he has been electric. He's only played 104 minutes since returning there across 3 games, and yet he's already scored 3 goals and provided 1 assist. And there is real excitement about this young man, and there is already a feeling of, is he the next one? Is he going to make that step up from Barca Athletic? And it's a position that we really need. That's the important thing here. It is genuinely a position we are crying out for in the first team. And even recently, Barca Athletic's coach, Albert Sanchez, he said, I really hope Dani Rodriguez gets a chance at Barca. He said, that's what we're here for. That is what Barca Athletic is all about. He said he's a real Barca-style winger. He's got a lot of potential. Now, hearing those words, I want some of that. I would love some of that in the first team. A Barca-style winger. Why not? You know, at the end of the day, why not give him an opportunity? Especially given that we're playing a very early Copa del Rey match in January against lower league opposition there. That is the perfect chance to see what he's got with the first team. If he impresses in that game, give him a shot. We cannot afford here to depend over and over again on Yamal so that his body breaks. None of us want that. That should not even be a possibility. Barca have to prevent that. And we need to try new things, and we need to give ourselves some options, especially if we're not really going to be able to bring them in January. However, guys, as always here on the channel, as I've just said with Yamal, it's not all about the now, the here and now, they're thinking about the next game, the next month, even the next year. It's also about the long-term picture. It's also about the long-term thinking at Barca. And a lot of people have said, looking at our recent form, looking at the struggles that we've had, does this prove that we need a big signing, that we need a statement signing there, and maybe in those wider areas? You know, we've spoken a lot before about the likes of Rafael Leao, Kvaratskhelia, players there that would cost big money coming in. And I'm just wondering right now, what would you actually prioritise? Is it quality or is it quantity? You know, are you happy right now to go and spend big on one particular area, whether it be out wide, whether it be in the number 9 position as well, don't forget, whether that be this summer or whether that be in the summer of 2026? Are you prepared to go big, or do we need to strengthen in several different areas and effectively spread that money around? Because I would also like to talk here, guys, about Jamal Musiala. Now, this is a player, I've got to be honest and say, I absolutely love watching this guy play football, because honestly, in modern football these days, there's a lot of good players, you know, there's a lot of talent, there's players there that can put up very good numbers, but there are fewer players that can get you really excited just to watch them play, just to focus on them, what they're doing with the ball, what they're able to do with the ball. Now, Musiala is one of those players for me, certainly outside of Barca. He is an absolute joy to watch. And the other thing, in my opinion, he's perfect for Hansi Flick. He is an absolutely perfect player here for a fluid system, for a counter-attacking system at times too. The pace that he has, the way that he can carry and move with the ball. And the reason that I'm mentioning him, of course, is his contract still expires in 2026. Now, as these months go on, as we move here closer to a new year, that is only 18 months away. In 12 months, he could sign a pre-contract before signing as a free agent. I mean, that is absolutely unbelievable here. We have got an incredible, maybe even generational player. You know, from this current era, he is a player with an incredible ceiling in the game, and he could be available on a free transfer. And the reason, again, that I mention him is because he came out very recently again, and he does this a lot. He talks about his childhood. He talks about his love for guess who? For Barca. That's who. He said, growing up, Barca was my reference point. He said it was my favourite team growing up the midfield, with Xavi, with Iniesta, with Busquets. Absolutely fascinated me. He said I could watch the Barca games over and over and over again. He said the name that I had on the back of my shirts. Guess, guys, guess. Who is that? Who is the name going to be on the back of all of those shirts? Yeah, you guessed right. Lionel Messi. He said, I also did have one with Neymar too, but Messi was my hero, my absolute favourite player there. And like so many of us, Musiala, I think we can all look at that and think, me too. That was me too growing up. Absolutely incredible there. And he does like us. You know, that's the thing. A lot of people say, does it really mean anything, you know, who he supported growing up as a kid? I think it does. You know, I think it certainly could play a part. You know, of course you've got to go there, you've got to offer the same kind of money as other people, there or thereabouts. You can maybe come in a little bit below, but I think it does. You know, if you dream of something, you grew up watching Barca play, you grew up supporting them, watching them in the camp now, thinking, one day, if I could ever play there, if I could ever put on that shirt, you know, I think it does mean something. And you've seen that from many of the signings that Barca have made in the past, whereby we've been able to get deals done. We've been able to get players maybe that people didn't think that we could have done, especially in our financial situation, simply because of their will to be here and the will to wear this shirt. And obviously, we can't get too excited. We can't get too ahead of ourselves with Musiala. But can you imagine that? Dreaming is free. We should all do it. And what would your reaction be if we were able to get him? Could we get him, in your opinion? And would you like to see it? Would you like to see Jamal Musiala donning a Barcelona shirt, guys? So please let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below, not only on Musiala, but every single topic that we have discussed here on the channel today. I really do hope that you have enjoyed today's episode, guys. Thank you indeed for tuning in, and also to all of you for your questions in my community section. Thank you as well for those of you who have downloaded the SofaScore app using the link in the description. That is a massive help to me, and the videos, they will keep on coming. Thank you indeed, guys, again. I'll catch you soon for all of the build-up ahead of Barca versus Atletico Madrid. But until next time, as always, Visca, El Barça.